Well, hello there. My name is Dave Bila. I want to welcome you to this new edition of News and Views, broadcast by Access LaPorte County on Public Access TV Channel 99. We are a weekly public opinion program addressing local, state, and national topics and issues of interest to the Michigan City and surrounding areas. Opinions are the views and responsibilities of those making the comments and do not necessarily represent or reflect or represent the views of this program or its co-producers. Larry, Curly, or Schmo. We will adhere to broadcast rules, but absolutely no one's First Amendment rights of freedom of speech or freedom of the press will be either muzzled nor denied any unauthorized use of the accounts, descriptions, and events of this program without express written consent of us three. Strictly prohibited. We hope you enjoy the program, the discussion, and the participants. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not take up too much of your time. I just want to bring something to the forefront. I'm not a Nostradamus. I don't consider myself a Nostradamus. I consider myself a free thinker. But a couple weeks ago, a state representative, or a state senator, Bo Haychek, wanted to put the city of Michigan City into a classification of a city of a third class. What is this, 2025, Bob? It's 2025.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, back in January 16th, 1983, I approached Senator Dennis Neary. He went to parochial school in LaPorte. I also went to a parochial school. And I requested an Attorney General's opinion, specifically on the topic of whether the individuals who reside within the confines of the Indiana State Prison are eligible to vote and are eligible to be included in the head count of the various wards here in the city of Michigan City. I forgot about this. I remember recollect a conversation with Dennis way back, but I honestly forgot. Bottom line, we got an Attorney General's opinion. The Attorney General's opinion cited Indiana Code 3551-4, and it specifically states that a person for a criminal disenfranchised during his imprisonment and a series of court proceedings that led to his crime. In other words, he is a criminal and he loses he's disenfranchised to vote. Bottom line, she basically says that the residents of Michigan City cannot make up the numbers for the 6 wards being equal to one another. This was in 1983. Bo Haychek wanted to move the city of Michigan City into the city of a third class based on this population. If he would have done a little research, he would have found that this was a 1971 court case held, the enumeration of people confined in institutions where individuals usually stay for a long period of time as residents for the state where they have confined had a rational basis. However, she noted Article 2, Section 8 Indiana Constitution allows the General Assembly to deprive the individually convicted of infamous crimes the right to vote. Well, if they're declined the right to vote, how can they be included in the head count that arrives at the population? Bob said he just worked at the polls, and he found that the city of Michigan City, this last election,
It could have been this last one, or it could have been the prior election. I'm not really sure about that. But the problem was that they had to add voters in the 3rd ward, and they hadn't done that at the time of the election. So they actually had, I think it was voters in the 2nd ward, one precinct, vote for the 3rd ward, because they were going to be moved.
well, the bottom line is, I brought this issue up January 16, 1983. And you know what it got me? One of the numerous things it got me was it got me gerrymandered out of my ward by a width of a street. Another issue I want to bring up, what specific solutions would you propose to these problems? This pertains to, I responded to the News Dispatch. The solution to this problem is for everyone to realize the unlimited growth potential the city possesses. We have the lakefront, we have the forthcoming development in Mount Baldy area, we have the traffic influx from 94, the proposed new National Lakeshore Energy Exchange, it didn't happen yet, at Michigan City will bring even more traffic to the area. Undeveloped land is useless land. People taking interest in the establishment of a better commercial and recreational Michigan City and the involvement of the banking community could create a business. The business would create jobs. The jobs would create taxes, tax revenue, and so on down the line. When did I say that? I said that in 1979. I said that in 1979, and what is it, 2025? Go back maybe 3 years, 2023. Finally, the city is realizing what reality is all about. And what do I get out of it? No kudos, no nothing. I get gerrymandered out of my ward. You wonder why I question the party that I represent. Gentlemen?
Well, I guess I could go ahead and start. I spent most of the week going through the situation that we've got with the tariffs and economic development, what that means for the country and what that means for Michigan City. And what I wanted, and also LaPorte County, but what I wanted to start out with is it looks like Donald Trump and the economic group that he has put into office are attempting to do a number of things in terms of bringing back economic development into our country. So I'm going to start with the metals that he's looking at. And he's looking at steel, aluminum, and copper. He wants those brought back into the United States. You're going to have to start with smelters. Now, the steel situation is probably going to take care of itself. With the steel mills we have, and a automobile corporation by the name of Hyundai has also announced that they will invest $20 billion in the United States, of which $5.1 billion will be for a steel mill to be located in Louisiana. The other $15 billion is still up, and we've got to start taking a look at that. But the one I want them to take a look at is the aluminum, and an aluminum smelter for LaPorte County located in the Kingsbury Industrial Park. That Kingsbury Industrial Park was set up for heavy types of industries, one of which would be a smelter. Today, smelters are much more friendly from an environmental standpoint. They don't have near the pollution that they used to have, and they pay very good wages. So locating that and having the output available for putting together various pieces and various types of equipment, of which a lot of it is going to be built with aluminum because it's a lower weight than steel, and you really need that lower weight in the automotives and in the aeronautical area to reduce the weight of those types of situations. He's also in the area of commodities, looking at lumber, computer chips, pharmaceuticals, and he's looking at, from a software standpoint, AI, and he's also looking at quantum computing and quantum physics. He wants those programs brought back into the United States and developed in the United States. A couple of other areas that I would look at, he's talked about this, would certainly be pharmaceuticals. We had a real problem with COVID because we had so many of the basic materials that we use in pharmaceuticals controlled by China, and they wouldn't give them to us. We really had to go in there and beg for them. That's ridiculous. You got to have those in the United States and produced in the United States. He also wants to bring back automobiles, and he wants to bring back shipbuilding. Now, here in Michigan City and on the Great Lakes, I'm not sure what we could do with very large ships, but we certainly could build tugs, and we certainly could build icebreakers. Those are two things that are very much needed by the Navy and by our commercial situation, and we could certainly be able to do that. So what I'm after is for our Economic Development Commission to start looking at how we can do this, bringing back really solid, good-paying jobs, and get off the horse about putting up a number of low-income housing in
Workforce
hospital.
Workforce housing.
Okay, sorry about that. Workforce housing on the north end, when we could be putting up high-value types of housing. And the important thing there is that's on a hospital that was taken down about 25 years ago. That hospital was in existence from the 30s, the 40s, and the early 50s, and it was a hospital that was badly needed. But the problem now is you don't know what's in the ground that that hospital used. There were no environmental rules. I'm sure they did the best they could at the time, but gosh knows what's underneath that. We don't want to find out the hard way. If you put in high-value types of housing, large complexes that can go 10, 12 stories, they can afford to spend the money to get out far enough and find out what's underneath. If you just put up single-family or dual-family housing, very difficult for a contractor to keep that in line with the costs and the budget, and so they tend to just scrape off the top. We could put that out on the south side, and especially because that's where the kind of shopping that your workforce might be going to. We're talking about all these Walmart, Myers, places like that, that have low-value types of shopping, and they do have very low margins, so as a result of that, people can afford to shop there that are in your workforce. If you use this on the north end as high-value types of housing situations, then you could put in a high-value type of grocery store, wherein you would find that they would sell craft beers, which are expensive. If you buy them by the jug, they could... Tony's had experience with that.
No, I just know they're expensive.
They also sell very high value types of wine. You can buy wine in some of these high-class grocery stores for $50 or $100 a bottle. Most workforce people, and some of us, don't spend near that much money for wine. But these are the things that our Economic Development Commission has got to start to think about, and they've got to find out what types of entities would be amenable to coming into a place like Michigan City and LaPorte County. Start now, doing your homework, because it's coming. Trump is going to get these back. It may be nasty, and it may be a while before he's able to do it, but he fully intends to do this. And generally, when he fully intends to do something, he gets it done. I'll turn it over to Tony and let him give his thoughts on it.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
I don't know about this north end. I was going to ask you two, because I don't know. What was there before Memorial Hospital? Because I presume it was houses and buildings before Memorial Hospital. Because Elston Grove was all houses and single family and some rentals, and it was a neighborhood. And
it was a neighborhood, but it also, if I recall correctly, had some commercial ventures,
yes, yeah.
Lumber yards and this type of thing.
It was ancillary to Franklin Street as the downtown business district.
Yeah.
So then you had one street off some businesses. And I am 100% for putting houses back there. I think you should have ownership, not rentals. And we are going to find out, I think, in a bad way. But I think it's funny that we did a show and we read the article that they talked about the development down there. And one of the things, and I don't know if they misspoke or they weren't ready to speak on the news, and then the media does some strange things when it writes people's quotes. They said there could be a nail salon in this new development. But then the article came out pretty quick after that, after our show.
No, really?
That they were looking at Trader Joe's. I don't know. So I don't know, but so I think you should, I don't know which way you want it. Condos, townhomes, single family, but they should be ownership. People have to take ownership where they are. Apartments, while we need them and they are good, are probably not something you should put back at the north end. We've been down that road. We don't need to go down that road again. We know what happens with people that don't own things and out-of-town developers who maintain and run these apartments.
Well, just look at the 235 concept that came through in, what, the 70s or 80s? The little bitty brick homes on Ohio Street and on the west side.
Yeah, that they did gentrification, not gentrification, they had, who was that? They said they were going to try to put people who were poor and they needed help and a leg up, and they were going to put them in neighborhoods to try to get them to meld together with other higher end neighborhoods, and that would not devolve the neighborhood. But we know what happened at the Southwood neighborhood. It completely went and it lost, and the people, white flight, left, and all you had was the small little brick government homes.
Yeah, to the credit of some of the older individuals, they took care of their property, you know.
Because that was designed to be a very high-end subdivision, like
Yes.
like Village Green, very high-end. South of 20 was going to be a very high-end, and then the government decided to put some brick homes in there, and they just left. They weren't going to have it anymore.
Let me do something that I've done before, because I know people want to concentrate on housing. I think that Economic Development Commission has got to get off housing, and it's got to get on bringing jobs that are good paying jobs
Yes.
back into this area.
Then housing will come.
Yes, it will, and they'll be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the other trick. But here's the situation. If you live in LaPorte County, this was information that was developed, if I recall correctly, about 2022. The per capita income in LaPorte County was less than $50,000. It was $49,992 per individual. If you look at the surrounding counties, everybody is well above us. But let's start with Porter County. Porter County, their per capita income was $63,557 per individual. So we're looking at a little over a $13,000 difference per individual. You put that into a married couple, you're talking $26,000. That has to be our goal, to get to where Porter County is. And the board for the Economic Development Commission has got to start setting goals like that, so we bring in the types of industry that will allow us to be paid on that basis. Now, a couple of others. If we looked at Lake County, they were $53,127. They're a little over $3,000 ahead of us. So a couple, that's $6,000. That'll make a car payment, a good car payment. St. Joe County next to us, theirs was $56,688. You're talking almost $7,000 difference. Again, that'll buy a nice car. If we are going to live in a status of middle level income, then we have got to get to the point that in a family situation, you have a house and you have two, probably in this day and age, two people working, but they've got to have an income if they're going to be able to buy that house with all the amenities that people want and have two decent cars. They got to be in the $100,000 per year income status to do that. But now that you guys
And
disagree
Porter
with
County,
me,
another article just came out that Porter County has been growing rapidly. And LaPorte County has stayed even or lost a few people. So we need jobs first. I don't understand how we think housing, I didn't say houses, housing is going to draw people here. There's lots of things going on. I don't know where you want to go with that subject, but there's another subject that I don't know if you want me to get on with, Dave, but water going uphill.
go ahead.
No, it doesn't. No, that doesn't exist in Michigan City. I've never heard of that. Is a ridiculous, unrefined comment uttered by. I wouldn't expect someone of your stature to come up with such a ridiculous comment such as that.
I tell you guys this. I don't care whether it runs uphill or downhill. What I care about is the piping manufactured in the United States to run that water through.
Manufactured in Michigan City would be nice.
Yeah, it would be much better, but I want it here in this country or in LaPorte County or
I'm sorry.
Michigan City.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tony. But you did say something extremely ridiculous. No sensible individual within their right mind would utter such vomit such as that.
Could we get back to manufacturing the piping to do this, regardless of whether it goes uphill or downhill in Michigan City or LaPorte County?
And we're going to need some pipes. So there's a prediction. You're going to see the city council is going to have a presentation. And my guess is this presentation is going to concern the Lafayette-Barker sewer system, which anyone knows, Lafayette-Barker, that area used to be, and I'm mostly talking about York and what's the next street south. That is one of the lowest parts in town. And that used to be connected by drainage ditches that went west. But, path of least resistance, the city back in the day, the engineers, and these are good people, they ran that water east to the Cheney Run through the cemetery, around the north end of the cemetery, in really deep, deep pipes. And they made that water, but they couldn't do much slope or much capacity because they didn't have the equipment. We had to dig pipes in, and they didn't have that big of pipes we have now. So that area has constantly seen the need for some stormwater improvements, probably one of the last areas in the city. And through a past administrations, they decided that it would be wise to spend, I believe, somewhere in total cost, somewhere around $12 million for a tunnel over there on Lafayette Street, over by Elston School. We built this tunnel, and this tunnel exists today, and it goes nowhere. Nothing feeds in it. It's been sitting there, let me see, it's been sitting there 20 years? Quite a long time. 15, 16, 20 years. We built this tunnel, we paid for it, about $12 million. And so we were trying to now push the water north up Lafayette, and then somehow we didn't consider the outlet, which stormwater, you look at a storm comes up and all the garbage and the silt and the dirt and the trash goes into the storm system, and it would go into these pipes and would flush out at the end, which would be Trail Creek. And we don't want to do that because we already got in trouble for putting effluent, I don't want to use the bad word, but we put effluent directly into Trail Creek into Lake Michigan. And we got written up, and we got in big trouble. And I think we even had a court order about doing that, about cleaning that up. So this outlet of this tunnel would be somewhere around 8th Street and Michigan Boulevard, which we don't want to just pump water out at that location because that's a good location for workforce housing that's been developed, or condominiums, or townhomes, or anything. Good location. So I bet we're gonna have a presentation. Now I want to get back to, we want to spend money to fix Lafayette Barker, which we need to do, because we filled in all the ditches and everyone's built up there, and we redone the pipes, and we haven't redone the pipes correctly. We have taken the pipes from taking the water that's already in the soil and infiltrating the pipe and flow it away. We haven't done that. We put solid pipes back in, so we kind of screwed up the neighborhood again. But the question is going to be, my prediction, where are we going to get the money? Because it's always about the money. So I would guess you were going to hear that in 2014 we had Michael Cusk came, Sanitary District, and he did a lot of work. He separated a lot of storm sewers. He spent a lot of money. He bonded the Michigan City Sanitary District to the tune of, what I can understand, what I've dug up from the auditor, state auditor, $7.65 million in wastewater state revolving fund loans. They're low interest loans from the state to improve your sanitary or your water. So there's wastewater and there's water funds. And we did that, and that was 2014, that's 10 years ago. We paid about half it off, I believe, 20-year bond, I believe. We owe $3.62 million from what I could find on the internet. So there's approximately $4 million available that we could up our bond again and pay for some project like this. And I think we're going to find out if we're going to go down the road of water going uphill, which means north now instead of east, or are we going to choose to follow Mother Nature and try to work this water to go west, where she intended, and it's always been going, before Michigan City became a city. And we're going to find out in this meeting, I think there'll be a presentation, are we going to ask for a $4 million bond to re-up our bonds another 20 years at, right now I think it's 2.3% to the state revolving fund, and try to keep pushing water the wrong way. We can't do anything about this pipe in this place, but we could use it to filter out the garbage and trash that gets in there as a pre-treatment, and they call it the first flush. So when a storm hits, the first 20% of the rain has all the garbage and the silt and the nasty environmentally unfriendly stuff. You encapsulate it, you hold it, you get rid of it, and you don't shove it into a waterway. Are we going to use that for a pre-treatment? And then we help it run south and then back west. So I'm talking like past Ames Field and down by the tracks.
The culverts are there.
The culverts are there. And if you look at Wabash, I can't remember the side street. If you look at Wabash and the street that goes in front of Ames,
Harris
at Wabash on the east side, if you look real close, there's a different color concrete in there. I don't know, 20 feet long, foot wide. It's the old bridge. It's still there. Couldn't take it out because there were culverts and that area would flood. So they naturally drained to the west. And if the city, I would say if the city council was as wise as I think they are, they would accept this presentation. And they would say, okay, thank you very much. What we're going to do, and what we would want the sanitary district to do and the administration to do, is set out a request for proposals for any engineering firm that would like to put out their proposal for the solution to Lafayette Parkway. Because I just told you, one of the solutions we've had that we paid $12 million was the tunnel. Deep tunnel, goes through Lafayette, through the hill. Another solution that happened, and God rest his soul, John Doyle, engineer, good engineer, worked with Michael Kuss to find a way to use the tunnel as an outlet and not just put that water right into Trail Creek and not ruin the land at 8th and Michigan Boulevard. So we have those plans. We have the first plans for the tunnel. We have a second set of plans by another engineer. Maybe the city council would ask them to ask for proposals. Maybe somebody has another unique solution. Might cost the same, might cost less, might cost more. Who knows? But another engineering firm might come along and say, we looked at this. We have a solution. And this is what our cost is going to be. And then the city of Michigan City could decide, with all the facts in hand, which route they would like to take. But that doesn't happen in my engineering world. Somebody comes up with an idea, and usually it's the engineer, goes to an administration, and they say, we'd like to open this project up because we looked at it and we would like to do this project, and we did a little in-depth looking into it, and we want you to give us a consulting project, because you don't have to bid for a professional service. You just say, okay, these are my consultants, they're going to do it, here's the price they're going to pay, and they're going to give us the solution, and then we'll have an engineer's cost of what it's going to be, but you get one solution. I would open up to multiple. There might be 5, 7, 10, 20 engineering firms in the state of Indiana or the United States or the world that say, we looked at it and we think you could do this, and this would be a different solution. And then we could have people in the city look at those and evaluate what solution is the best. Might not be the cheapest, but the best long-term solution. And I can guarantee you, the best long-term solution is to go south and west, where Mother Nature intended the water to go. But it will find out if you have a consultant come in front of the city council and have this great idea to go down the road we already went down, and it's going to cost X dollars, and we could find the money right here by going back to the state revolving fund and ask for a $4 million loan.
In the first year of the Perry administration, I had an idea that I've been working on for 10 years prior. I took it to the mayor and the Board of Works. The Board of Works recognized my paperwork, and they authorized me to work with the Michigan City Sanitary District. It's on record. That's going on 7, 8 years ago. Well, I presented, it basically revolves around cleaning out ditches and water flows and ridge lines and so on. First year of the Perry administration, I brought this to the attention of the city. I then followed up with pictures of culverts that are half full of silt. I brought a lot of issues to the forefront. The then city engineer, who was a temporary individual, he said, well, you got too much for me to look at. I can't look at it right away. He didn't want to look at it. Well, so I sort of buttoned my lip and did absolutely nothing until I ran into Mayor Angie. And I said, Mayor Angie, I would like an opportunity to explain what I did during the Perry's administration and what the city authorized for me to work with the new sanitary district. Except the new sanitary district is all gone. All of the people.
It's new again.
Huh?
It's new again.
It's new again. It's all new people, and so she suggested Greg Coulter, the first ward city councilman. She suggested that I approach him, and we work together to maybe reinitiate the concept that I put forth 7 or 8 years ago, as far as pointing out to the city. I've got pictures of ditches, culverts, half full of silt that will not allow the water to flow to Black Ditch in Porter County.
We're talking about the same location. The west side.
That is correct. But I've been on this again. I've been on this when I was on this when I was on the city council in the 80s. But Michigan City and the Redevelopment Commission continues to pursue the sewer to nowhere. I got an idea with the sewer to nowhere. Since it doesn't have an entrance point and an exit point, why can't it be a depository of all sewage water? We take all of the sewage water, or, I mean the rainwater,
sewer, yeah,
storm sewer, and we dump it into this reservoir, and then we build a lift station to then lift it out of this sewer to nowhere to someplace else.
I have no inside information, but that could be a solution. They say, well, how about we built this tunnel, but let's put a pump in it, because that's
Why not?
kind of crazy.
That's
stuff.
common sense. Yeah.
It costs money.
Could I ask a simple question? When we get all of this done, how many acres of industrial development will this give to the city of Michigan?
I'd say the entire west side of Michigan City, in my mind. When you consider, and again, there's annexation of land north of Highway 20 that is available up to County Line Road that could be potential developed land. But right now, because of the highway, I'll give you another example. Okay, Jerry Cablin. Jerry Cablin with the property at Marquette Mall. He had an idea about building condos and building this and building that. Part of the problem is the water table is so high under the parking lot where his Cablin hardware place is, the area has to be dewatered first. Well, wow, Mother Nature could dewater the area quite easily through various ditches running into the Monon ditch. Except the ditches are covered over dirt level high, so it's impossible for the water from the Cablin property to run under Ohio Street, to run parallel where this ditch is located, to get down the Kinsel Ditch, because it's all full of silt. I'm just saying that
But now, my 100 acres, how much of that is clay bottom and how much of that is sand bottom?
Most of it's sand bottom.
Most of it is sand bottom. That's good, because the water will filtrate. I guess the
There's a sand
engineers...
seam somewhere up south on Ohio, up by the Market Mall. There's a sand seam somewhere in Village Green. And we know this, and I don't know from personal experience, but I know from history that used to be blueberry fields. So that
used to be
water,
what?
the blueberry fields up
Oh,
there.
yeah.
So the water used to sit perched in the sand, because under the sand was some sort of clay seam. And you either got to run it along the clay seam, or you got to pierce the clay seam and let it go through. But I don't know if much of this Lafayette Barger will increase land for development or manufacturing, but it will decrease, and you're going to get on this one, the cost to people that are pumping and sump pumping their basements in the Lafayette Barker neighborhood, York, Decatur. There are people with water problems in their basement, and they pump and they pump and they pump because it's the low area. And you can go all the way over to Wabash Street. There are people with basements that pump and pump because there is a low area in that area, all part of town, and you'll see that needs to be drained or an outlet gained to let that go somewhere. We have been going east, which I don't fault the engineers. That was the path of least resistance when Michigan City was growing very fast, and it grew south. And now look like we are forcing everything north. And I don't know why we work against Mother Nature. I don't want to say water goes uphill, but we work against Mother Nature instead of with Mother Nature.
yeah, I've been on this for a long period of time. As I said, I approached the Board of Works. They authorized for me to work in conjunction with the Sanitary District, but we got all new members on the Sanitary District. And I talked to Chris Yagelski when this Wendy Vachette, who is involved with economic development, I wanted to make an appointment with her. She didn't want to talk to me until she gets her feet wet with the Sanitary District. But the fact of the matter is, the entire, from Franklin Street all the way west to County Line Road, water runs downhill, supposedly, except there are impediments in that water flow.
There's not much slope downhill, and it's very hard to keep the silt from building up.
Right.
You have to clean it.
And the Sanitary District gets $500,000 a year to clean out these ditches. They have done absolutely nothing in regards to cleaning out the ditches from the Marquette Mall area going west.
Yeah, you're right. So some land would be for development. The old Pullman yards
Sure.
Yeah.
would be, because that is just north of these ditches we're talking about that feed into Kinsel, feed into the Black Ditch, which naturally go into Lake Michigan. So some of that land will need the help these drainages work before anyone will develop on them, because they want to make sure their stormwater goes away in a conscientious environmental fashion.
In my mind, a simple solution right now that won't cost much money whatsoever is Hitchcock Street has culverts underneath Hitchcock Street. Okay, the culverts,
Very big ones.
the culverts are roughly about a foot higher than the flow of the water running down the ditch. I went out there with a pole, Polish pole, because I know nothing other than Polish. I stuck this pole into the ground, into those two ditches on the east side and the west side of Hitchcock Street. I was able to go down almost 5 feet of standing water before I hit the water flow that flows under those ditches. That is a backup. That is a backup that is impeding the water flow. It wouldn't cost a lot of money to replace those two culverts under Hitchcock Street and let Mother Nature proceed with her skills. But while I was told, well, do you know what it costs to replace culverts?
It depends where you're doing it or who's doing it.
These are corrugated pipes.
Some municipalities and counties have people that do it very efficiently and cheaply. Most do not.
I'm just saying, if we eliminate one impediment, just one, again, going back to putting things into perspective, Strable Pond is 68 foot higher than the level of Lake Michigan. There is an impediment just Strable Pond to where these ditches, where these culverts are located. There's roughly about a 10 to 12 foot drop. There is a backup of water. And you don't see that backup of water going north on Hitchcock because it goes uphill. You don't see that backup of water beyond Highway 20.
It's so far up.
But there is a what do ice when the ice
Ice jam.
ice when ice flow comes in, it gouges out a gorged area. There is a gorged area, and at the bottom of this gorged area, it sets Hitchcock Street that is preventing the water from flowing down. That would be a simple solution.
So-
It wouldn't be the ultimate solution, but it would alleviate a possible.
I did this with Dave, and I would help really anyone if they wanted to see this, and I don't have to leave my office anymore to do this. The area I'm talking about, York, Lafayette, Barker, that area, the lowest area in there, what I can find, is about 4 or 5 feet higher than the area you're talking about, where the ditch takes a turn to the Kinsel ditch right there by the tracks. And that's why this discussion of Lafayette Barker is very hard, because in the past we didn't have technology like we have. We have technology now. I have technology now that I use in the private world all the time to let me do this. And I can tell you, I did this with a program that's free. I did this with data that's free in my laptop that's not really that powerful a laptop. So again, I predict you're going to see a presentation to the city about Lafayette Barker. And I hope that the council and the administration understand that, yes, this is something they need to work with, but we should put a request for proposals for anyone who would like to come up with their unique engineering firm, their unique proposal or their proposal to fix this. And you'll have costs involved in consulting costs and engineering costs, but the person who has the best solution should be given the chance to enact the solution. Instead of picking one person, which I hope is not the solution we already started with, a tunnel to nowhere, that we're going to continue down that road. I hate to waste $12 million, but I would rather set $12 million aside to get a new solution that might work instead of one that we work against Mother Nature, which doesn't make any sense.
To put things into perspective, south on Ohio Street from Jamar Ruby, there is a ridge line that approaches Franklin Street that goes a little bit beyond Burger King that specifically runs all the way up to where they're building the new cement pond on 11th and Pine, Franklin Street, Franklin and 11th. And it then proceeds to curve to the west. That whole area,
Watershed.
water, it flows to the west. I've got maps that Tony provided me that shows numerous creeks.
Yeah, 1930s ditch maps, which are available in LaPorte City Library.
It's there. I presented this concept to the then sanitary district. But for them to accept my help, just as some of these individuals who I brought up issues in the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, they turned their nose at my efforts. This is an issue that could dewater roughly 50%, over 50% of the land mass from Franklin Street to the west and make things better. But for some reason they don't want to listen to me. But I took pictures of these culverts on Monon Ditch, was it 4 years ago, that were half filled with effluent that prevents the water. This is under the CSX tracks.
Well, half filled with dirt and
Correct.
sand and
And I was working with the sanitary district. They went out and they took pictures. I said, hey guys, I'll tell you what, if you can't clean out these culverts under the CSX tracks, give me a fire hose, enough fire hose to run from that hydrant that's on Earl Road. Give me enough fire hose, I'll clean it out myself. Because it's not going to take that much effort to flush out that half culvert, half full of effluent to allow water to flow down. If you doubt my word, go to Earl Road, and it's a road that runs north up to the CSX tracks, and look at the amount of standing water that is being backed up beyond these culverts that are half full of crud. That is a determining factor in my mind to say why a lot of individuals just south of this area have water in their basements.
because that is the natural place for the Lafayette Barker area of town to outlet to. You might seem like a long way away. It's actually 6,000 feet. So about 1.25 miles.
You mean I'd have to have 6,000 feet of hose?
No. That's
Oh.
about how far from the Lafayette Barker.
Oh, I see,
York,
I see.
Lafayette area. That's about how far you'd have to run a new pipe, pretty much flat, to outlet to the west. But it would really help that whole neighborhood. It would solve a lot of water problems in the soil. It would probably open up the old Pullman yards. It would definitely help the area that is right there, which is the old A&P, north of the tracks, that whole storage area. There's a little high hill there. All the high tension power lines run through there. That is a corridor that has been crying for help probably since Michigan City developed past the tracks.
How long have you been a surveyor?
2006.
Oh,
License.
well, I was on this issue back in the 80s.
And you brought it to me, and like I said, if people ask me, I will help you. I will show you data. It doesn't take much. I will show you the programs you need to get a good understanding, because the technology we have, right? You've seen some of the technology we have, which even gotten better, is amazing. I would expect the old engineers in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s would think that what we have today would blow their minds. What they accomplished back in those days with the little information and technology they have compared to what we have today, they would wish they could have a new life today with what we have today, to do quick analysis and know what to do instead of, I don't blame them in the 50s and 60s for going east. I do blame them for the 2000s for going north. We should have known better. We should have taken our 12 million. With 12 million, I would say we probably could have solved our solution going west without a tunnel, without a pump, and the neighbors would have been a lot happier today, and that's been almost 20 years.
Let me ask you a question. Now, I agree with you. Those people on Lafayette Street, York Street, they got real problems.
Yeah.
That has to be solved. We've got probably about a $7 million bonding possibility?
4 million.
Well, no, 7 million total.
Yeah,
4
we could-
million
yeah,
left.
Yeah,
because
4
we-
million left. We could re-up at 4
Yeah.
million, I think.
What would be the other projects in Michigan City that would command 2 to 3 to 4 million against this project?
That's a good question, because I don't think there are any.
Okay,
We've done such a good job separating our storm sewers and sanitary, and Michael Cuss took a big, bold step, and he did $7 million worth of work. And he accomplished a lot. My gut is telling me that we don't have any other big projects that we really need. Angie's having the people fix the siphon underneath the creek, so the north of Trail Creek into Washington Park in that area. She's having fix that. That was needed. We have to try to extend sewer and water out to the new annex ground out by 20. But a project of that size, Michigan City has done a very good job at fixing their storm sewer and their separation and getting stuff running. My guess and my gut is that this is the last big project, and somebody sees that they'd like the big consulting contract to take this last project on and fix it. I just hope they don't go north.
But I see, I'm not talking about a big project, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking about a big project. I'm talking about simple maintenance. The maintenance that hasn't been done for the last 20 to 30 years.
And you're not just talking the west side maintenance.
No.
We have the white ditches needs to be maintained.
That's another one. That's another one. But again, because I represented the 3rd Ward and I knew the water problems out in the 3rd Ward, that will eventually materialize once the prison becomes a reality. The ownership of the prison becomes Indiana State Prison. I mean, I'm just saying.
That's this watershed.
I'm just saying what we do. The sanitary district, listen up, because you don't listen to me when I sit at a meeting. Maybe you'll listen up to this. You get $500,000 a year from LaPorte County to clean out ditches. These impediments that I'm talking about are along the ditches you got to clean out. Do your job.
And that $500,000's been happening since 50 years?
Quite a while.
50 years.
Quite a while. And then I bring this to the attention of the people in the sanitary district. They know nothing about it. Oh, we don't know nothing about it. But we know how to put in lift stations. We know how to put in curbs and gutters. We need to how to mediate soil samples from a cleaning factory and so on. I mean, they come up with numerous little petty jobs. They are meaningful to a certain extent, but there are more meaningful jobs from Franklin Street to the west, in my opinion, than there are from Franklin Street
And
to
now
the
it's
east.
more important than ever, because that's where all our development's going to happen.
Yeah.
On the west side.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pay attention to the west side.
Yeah.
well, I actually think that our development is going to go east, but that's,
Well, I'm not talking jobs. I'm talking housing and stuff, and retail is going to happen on the west side. The
Okay.
prison, I hope NIPSCO, but I didn't. That's like
well, let me
you a
ask
while.
one more question, and then I want to talk a little bit more about the necessary jobs in Michigan City and LaPorte County. Now, you keep talking about the $500,000 funding. How is that determined? Because the question I'm going to ask is, are we just not being funded enough in order to clean out the ditches? What determines how much money the county gives us to clean ditches?
Back in the 70s, and Tony,
74.
74, the city of Michigan City took over the responsibility to clean out ditches.
There was
Okay.
an assessment,
There was an assessment.
and the county drainage board was doing that, but they gave that. I think it was ditches to bridges, and we gave the city the ditches, and they gave us the bridges, and they got the money that came along with that assessment.
So that money is not sufficient, or it is sufficient?
It's not.
They're not
sufficient.
using it. They're not utilizing
Wait a
it.
minute.
It's not sufficient, but it could help out on some basic
A
cleaning.
yearly maintenance program.
They're
for the
spending
last.
it on other things.
Right, they are.
So
A-
basically, what we're saying is, we need the sanitary district to set up some kind of a maintenance program, and then we can look at it and see if they're following through.
They
with what
did
should.
it. Well, I understand when Michael Kotz was here, and I was on the drainage board technical advisor. He got wind of all the ditches we cleaned in the county, and he was amazed. He was blown away. How can you guys clean all those ditches for that cheap? Now we do have farmers that have their own excavators, and they do very good work, and they do their own ground. They clean ditches, and so then he said, "Well, let's put out a bid." Their bid, and I don't want to say it was big as this stack, but it's pretty close. Their bid, they set it out. I think they had 2 bidders. He was, again, blown away at the prices. And I can tell you the bidders that bid, the excavating companies that bid on this project says, we do work in the county. We do work in the state of LaPorte. But this packet, to do this packet, 10, 100 times the cost. And they didn't have enough money. Well, you guys put together a packet. You administrated such an amazing packet for bidding, you didn't get the job done.
The Michigan City Redevelopment Corporation, I believe the director who brings in chicken franchises to Michigan City, also brought in a trailer company on Hitchcock and Highway 20. And this trailer company was from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they've got now parked out there probably 300 white trailers, and they're using it as a maintenance facility.
Yeah.
Within probably 2 or 3 weeks of the transaction that took place, individuals from this trailer company informed Michigan City that their area is flooding. Their area, part of the landmass is flooding, and they told the city, "Well, we'll clean it up." Well, the city said, "No, we'll clean it up." But the fact of the matter is, the results of the flooding is a direct result of my complaining about the ditches not being cleaned out. It would have been alleviated if they would have done their job. If the city would have done its job.
Yeah, that's one of the ditches that needed to be cleaned.
That is correct. Somebody cleaned it out.
So I'll go back to Bob because a real quick article just came out this week, a few days ago, that this is zerohedge.com, and the headline is Microsoft scales back AI data center projects in US, Australia, and UK. You'll probably hear it first here, and you'll probably pick it up. I might say you might pick it up in a month. But Microsoft, through technology, as looking at their data center build out. Because things like we saw in the news, that new DeepSeek AI came out and they said it could do 100 times what any other AI program to do with 1/10 of the power. So now somebody has developed a better algorithm.
When he talks about DeepSeek, DeepSeek is an AI.
It's an AI algorithm.
Yeah.
So the people are creating these algorithms that artificial intelligence is making decisions. And these algorithms are getting better and better and better. Back 15 years ago, I was in Silicon Valley, and my brother-in-law is a physics major out of Purdue. He worked for Intel and the big guys. And he said everyone around town was running around selling their algorithms for millions of dollars. And these are smart people building better algorithms for artificial intelligence. So Microsoft now realizes they might not need as much computing power as they thought. And the article says Microsoft recently went through negotiations for lease space between London and Cambridge in the UK. The company has also halted negotiations for data center space near Chicago. In some cases, Microsoft is delaying construction. It has paused work on parts of its data center in Jakarta. So LaPorte City has a Microsoft data center. We're building an Amazon Web Service data center. We need to be resilient.
Well, that Amazon data center's in St. Joe County.
St. Joe County. So in the area, we need to be resilient. Because I want to quickly go back to Bob we got 5 minutes. Quickly go back to Bob Nissan just announced last week that they're going to do e-power hybrid. So that's a car that the motor runs the generator, which powers the batteries, which powers the engine. Chrysler has it.
Hybrid in the kind of...
A different kind of hybrid. So everyone's going to have these different kind of hybrids. And I think they're going to proliferate like you've never seen. Chrysler has it, or whatever Chrysler is now.
Stellantis.
Subaru is announcing. I guarantee you Ford and GM are not far behind, and Toyota is not far behind. So you will need more batteries. And I understand that the battery plant over there north of Amazon Web Service is going to be started back up. They're going to start putting the walls up and foundations because they understand, A, that the tariffs are going to bring people back here, and B, that we can't make enough batteries for these smaller hybrids.
Well, the other thing about this situation that Tony's talking about is the percentage of U.S. Involvement in building these vehicles. You will find that it's the EVs that have the highest percentage of U.S. content. Mm-hmm. In fact, the ones that they're trying to destroy, have about 80% US content. Most of the rest of them are 50% or less. So as a result of that, even if we bring back electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, we're going to get a much higher US content base, and we're going to find that we've got a lot more employees that are going to be involved with this. My point is, we have got to start manufacturing in the United States, and I'll make points about this as we go along. But if you can't manufacture, by that I mean make dies, tools, jigs for the completion of component parts that go into automobiles and that go into aircraft. This has to be done by experts, and we had those experts for 100 years. We don't have them anymore. They have gone to Asia, they have gone to Europe. We've got to get them back into the United States so that we can manufacture. We can take steel, we can take aluminum, we can take copper, we can cut it into component parts as necessary, and we can put component parts together. And I'll just kind of finish, and I'll hold off until next week. But for those of you that have bought a vehicle recently, if you have noticed, there is no dipstick in your transmission. The situation is that you can't put fluid in a transmission without taking the entire transmission apart. That is absolutely ridiculous to the age that I came out of, but that's a fact. And it's about a 7 to 8 hour job for an individual, a mechanic, to take that transmission apart, put fluid in it, and put the transmission back together again. And you're talking, what, $100 an hour, $150 an hour?
About $3,000.
Yeah, we're getting down to the last minute or so.
Yeah,
I just want to say something. We've got a guy in Michigan City Michigan City area schools, who's introduced the 3D printing concept to the academic level here in the city of Michigan City. He is basically laying the groundwork for future development that you guys are talking about. His name is Kevin McGuire. And 3D printing at the elementary school level, I watched something that the dental industry is utilizing 3D printing to replace dentures in a span of less than 24 hours, utilizing the printer itself, the concept. Kevin has implemented this concept in the city of Michigan City how many years ago? He's the guru of technology.
Gotta be quick.
Well, okay, we can save the rest of it for next week. But the point being that we have got to get these jobs back into this country, back into LaPorte County and Michigan City, because that's where we started downhill in 1970, was when we lost those jobs.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. Your input as to improvements or criticism of this program is greatly appreciated. Please contact Show's Try co-producers Bob Pollock, Dave Bila, or Tony Hendricks with your comments. You can email Bob at skrpollock@gmail.com, Dave at djbila1@hotmail.com, or Tony at emailagm@yahoo.com, or you may address your ideas for any future shows to our one and only pain in the neck staff writer, Sarah Bellum. The showing of our program will be Saturday morning at 10 a.m., followed by Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m., and numerous times on Channel 99 when Andy has some dead time to fill. You may also watch our program, Navigate News and Views. I've been finding it on Navigate News and Views, on 99 Navigate News and Views. That's how I've been finding it. It's there. We've probably got about 15 shows in the can. If you don't want to listen to me, well, so be it. I want to thank everybody for watching, and make it a good day.
Go to dinner in Michigan City.